We have learned that the Trudeau government's head of pathogens was collaborating with members of Beijing's People's Liberation Army who are responsible for bioweapons and bioterrorism.
Canada's security agency has finally confirmed what so many of us knew way back when 2 Chinese laboratory assistants were fired from a lab in Winnipeg. Hello, I'm Adrienne BATRA. With me are Brian Lilley and Lorrie Goldstein. You know, I probably shouldn't have downplayed it, Lorrie. They weren't just lab assistants. They were actually full-on researchers. They were visiting professors. They had significant amount of education and in the area of science and virology. But a few years ago, they were fired from the lab. They were marched out. We all speculated, of course, that they were sharing secrets with the Chinese government. And now newly released documents from CSIS proved just that. But the Liberal government tried to block those documents from coming out. But here we are.
Yeah, and let's remember the extraordinary lengths they went to keep this secret. And what the documents essentially say is that our security agencies considered them a security risk. So, you know, that's pretty serious. What did the government do knowing this? They were fighting in court to not have to follow instructions, not only from a Commons committee, which has the power to get documents. They were also fighting the Speaker of the House, who because this was so serious, said you got to present these documents. And they fought that, and the only reason that fight stopped was the 2021 election, where everything went down. So in other words, they knew they were hiding information that Canadians had a right to know about, for heaven's sakes, in the current climate of interference in our democracy by China, by Iran, by India, that we don't have the right to know that scientists at what's supposed to be the most secure lab for testing viruses in the country has 2 people that our security agencies have concerns about?
Yeah.
Why is that a state secret? So what we know is they fought this because they knew it was bad. And it's just another example of this government treating Canadians like mushrooms. You know, they put us in the dark and they cover us with manure. It's another
Well, Brian, in the interviews, it's the husband and wife, Cheng and Xi. They were obviously lying while they were being interviewed, as is laid out in the CSIS documents. They were given many opportunities to come forward with information that clearly the intelligence agency had against them. But they found that she was far more egregious in her actions than perhaps he was, even though he too was lying. But Xi was just directly transmitting confidential, sensitive documents right to China. Cheng, he just used his regular email, used unsecure servers, which information was being transmitted was said to be potentially disastrous with military implications.
You have to remember what this lab is. It's not just a general lab. It's a level 4 biolab. This is where you test things like novel coronaviruses. This is where samples of some of the worst viruses on the planet are kept. You know, there's very few of these labs around. This is the only one that we have in Canada. And these researchers were, as you say, transmitting information. It was one thing if they were going to be working with researchers in China. That is not uncommon. But they started getting very close to the People's Liberation Army and universities associated with them, which just do defense work. And so CSIS looked into them and found what you just described. So this is, as Lorrie said, this is something we should have known about. It shouldn't have taken 4 years. It shouldn't have taken a court fight. The Speaker of the House of Commons ordering the papers released after multiple votes in both the Commons and at the committee. But, you know, the Trudeau government wants to think it can get away with everything. And I want to play a clip here because when Justin Trudeau was asked about this on more than one occasion, he turned around, the Conservatives wanted to know about it. His response was racism.
Mr. Speaker, yes, from the beginning of my career onwards, I have worked with many Chinese Canadians and indeed had fundraisers with them. And the rise in anti-Asian racism we're seeing over the past number of months should be of concern to everyone. And I would recommend that the members of the Conservative Party, in their zeal to make personal attacks, not start to push too far into intolerance towards Canadians of diverse origins.
And that's always the case, Lorrie. I mean, Trudeau tries to hide this under the cloud of anti-Asian racism. If you have any sort of questions whatsoever about this issue, or even the originations of COVID, whatever the concern is, fortunately, we got the two Michaels back out of those Chinese prisons. I'm not sure what it is, either because China considers Trudeau little potato, they think he's weak, he's irrelevant. Why is Trudeau so incapable of finally saying something with strength and with rigor against the Chinese government, particularly even now circling around what we know about interference into our elections?
Well, look, on the broader issue of interference, we have a public inquiry going on that the Prime Minister fought against month after month after month. All the opposition parties wanted it. Polls show Canadians wanted it, and he fought it, and he fought it. He raised the specter of anti-Asian, which didn't work for him because Chinese Canadians, Canadians of Chinese origin, yesterday they said, no, we're the main victims of this.
Mm-hmm.
We want this out. And now what's happened in the inquiry? Groups like the Uyghur Muslims and that represent the people of Hong Kong are bailing out because they don't trust this commission of inquiry because of the people they have given standing to, who they say are perpetrators against our community. A lot of these things. I mean that's pretty disheartening. We have an inquiry on foreign interference. Good. We had to fight to get it from this government, but we got it. And even in its initial goings on, groups that would be most need to be heard from, the ones who most know about interference, Canadians of Chinese origin, Canadians of Iranian origin, Canadians of Russian origin, the two groups that are huge in terms of knowing what's going on with regard to China's interference have bailed out of the inquiry because they don't trust it. What does that tell you about what's going to be the value of the inquiry?
Brian, last word to you. As far as these two scientists go, it's unclear if they're still in Canada. We don't know. But what will be the implications or accountability or fallout from this?
Well, our allies have downgraded their trust in us on many fronts. And as I said, this is a lab that would have military implications, would be something that our allies would look to as an asset that we bring to the table. And we've seen on various fronts that we've been downgraded from the Five Eyes to the Three Eyes, and Canada and New Zealand are left out because we're not serious countries led by serious people anymore. This will only add to that. It will add to the distrust that average Canadians have in the ability of their government to tell the truth. Although, if you look at the polls, Canadians aren't overly trusting of the current government anyway. Further erosion of public institutions, which Justin Trudeau says he stands up for and defends every single day. No, the only thing he defends is himself and his ego.
Well, let us know what you think in the comments below, and like this video and share it as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to the TorontoSun.com. You're going to find commentary and coverage there you will not find anywhere else.